I want to experience that myself. So we're going to give you more and more information like that right here on WVON. So keep us on the air. Help us and give on this Giving Tuesday. Go to our website, straightwords.com. Straightwords.com. We have our live text support number right now. You can hit us up at 312-480-9775. That's 312-480-9775. Naba'a Richard Muhammad is the host of this show. He is the editor-in-chief of the Final Call newspaper. Our great brother who is a contributing editor, former editor as well, Brother James G. Muhammad. I'm Brother BJ. And we got another powerful hour for the people. We'll continue to talk about Africa, brothers.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, brothers and sisters, I'm hoping that we have Brother Brian Muhammad from the Final Call. I'm hoping that he's on. Because what I want to do, we finished talking with Dina McReynolds Everidge about the experience of her beautiful mom, and her brother, who happens to be Grammy Award-winning gospel artist, Jonathan McReynolds, believe it or not, and how she went to Ghana twice this year, and she went in November and she received her citizenship. And she talked about feeling like a first-class citizen for the first time in her life. And I guess, brothers and sisters, I know what that feels like. Brother James, I know you've been to Ghana.
Yeah.
What are some of your thoughts either from 1994 International Saviors Day, or other times that you went?
Yes, sir. As you mentioned, I've been there several times myself. It was one of the most exhilarating times of my life. As the conversation was being held with Sister Dina, the thing that just kept coming to my mind was I kept thinking about the title of the movie, Waiting to Exhale, because that's kind of like what I did, or what it sounds like she did. Like, you get among your people and you can kind of just exhale, man. You can kind of feel like you said, you're home. You told them, look, I'm not a tourist. I'm home. I'm exhaling. I'm where I'm supposed to be. Matter of fact, my roots are here. How can I be a tourist where my roots are? So I'm home, and that's kind of like, I've traveled there several times, and sometimes it was with the minister. And when you're with the minister, your travel experience is a lot different than when you're, like not with the minister. And when I wasn't with the minister, and my experiences were traveling with the minister. Obviously, is a higher level of, and it's always a high level of security, but it's a higher level of security and a higher level of being prepared for whatever is next. And then there's also a higher level of the type of people that you meet and come in close contact with, including heads of state, etc. And so that experience is definitely different. In that experience, you learn. I don't know the word, but you learn how to be diplomatic, how to conduct oneself in higher levels of leadership society. But you also I was able, to see how the minister was able to relax in that. And he was very close with President Rawlings, a very dear and great brother. And so those experiences were different than when we would go on just on media trips to report on certain things, where you could kind of, quote unquote, let your own hair down and kind of mingle on a more personal level with residents and in the shops and in the marketplaces. And a lot of the times that when I went without the ministers traveling with us, we spent some of that time in the marketplaces where the brothers were, and it may be different now because this is back in the 90s, but they did a lot of the carvings and the African kente cloth shops, et cetera, open air type markets, and that's where you kind of mingled with the brothers and sisters and just form tight relationships. You know, and so it was like I said, relaxing. The Cape Coast and Elmina slave castles that Dina mentioned the Cape Coast, but that first experience going there, she mentioned about the weeping and the feelings being inside the slave dungeons. Yes, I experienced that with others, and how when we talked in the dungeon, how they were telling us, yeah, what you're standing on is the blood, the remains, the all of that, the bodily fluid, et cetera, of the ancestors. You know, it was just built. You know, the bottom, what you're standing on, was literally their blood, their remains, or their bodily fluids, et cetera. And so, standing there and then looking at the door of no return, it was definitely an emotional feeling. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the experience was just beautiful, man. Beautiful.
And it's interesting that we have been able to return back through that door of no return. Yeah. Is Brother Brian Muhammad there? Because I want to get into this conversation. Then we're going to get into the other stuff. Brother Brian, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I don't know how much of the previous segment you got a chance to hear.
I heard the whole thing.
Okay. Now, tell us, because you lived in Ghana with the great Brother Abdul Akbar Muhammad, the international representative. What did you find your experience like, and what was the work like, and what were the people like? And how long were you there?
Wow. I was there in all, living on the ground, 7 years. And, and of course, in and out of the country over the years, but 7 years living there. And I have to absolutely bear witness to what Sister said in terms of that feeling of being a first-class citizen, first-class person. And my first time going, I had a very interesting trip because I initially went because of the work that our international representative of the Nation of Islam, Brother Akbar Muhammad, was doing. And I was one of those brothers that whenever he came into the area of the country that I lived in here, I was back home in New York at the time, and whenever he would come in, I was always one of the brothers that was pulled to assist him with this and that as he did his work in the city. And so I wanted to see. I was curious to see. I didn't really have Africa on my mind, but I had that. I was curious about the work that he was doing and the Nation of Islam was doing after a series of historical trips there of the minister, the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan. And so I went. And my first trip, I went to two countries. I went to Egypt, and then I landed in Ghana. And I want to bring up Egypt because although this is Africa, when I landed in Ghana, there was a feeling that I was home. There was a spirit. I'm talking about, this is stepping out of the door of the plane. I can't explain it, I cannot explain it, but it was clear that I was home. And, the beauty of the Ghanaian people, the beauty of the country itself. And as you talked about that door of no return, it is a fascinating feeling to know that, we were not, they never intended for us to return back to the continent, They've not they really never intended for us to go back, and so to go through that door of no return and then to return there and be able to look out into the ocean from that door of no return was a fascinating feeling. And just like the Jewish people go to visit the sites of the Holocaust, others have their sites that they go to remember and never forget what their people went through.
Yep.
All black people in the diaspora must make their way to these slave dungeons and go through that experience of feeling what our ancestors went through, and it is a emotion that comes over you when you are inside those dungeons.
Yes,
and
sir.
So Ghana is a very, very, very special place. You mentioned earlier about the role of Kwame Nkrumah, the first president after independence, and the fact that he went to school. He went to Lincoln University here, and he made many, many acquaintances and contacts and comrades. And so when he came to power in Ghana, he came back and pulled from the people that he met here. And there were those that went. When you talk about George Padmore out of the Caribbean, who went and served in Ghana under President Nkrumah. You look at W.E.B. Du Bois, who Nkrumah invited to come because, by the 50s going into the 60s, W.E.B. Du Bois was going through a lot of changes with the U.S. government. I mean,
absolutely.
With everything from the kind of harassment that many who were involved in the struggle of our people suffered, such as the taking away of the passport where you couldn't travel. They did that to him and Paul Robeson, And so when at a certain point, W.E.B. Du Bois went and he resided in Ghana, and there's that W.E.B. Du Bois Center, which is another site that is central to those of us that visit. And even when I was living there for those years, the W.E.B. Du Bois Center was always a central place for us to go. He's buried there, right there on the grounds, and the house that he lived in is there. Parts of his library was still in that house, And so, but this was the vision of Kwame Nkrumah, to bring people from the diaspora, like Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois, to help in the development of Ghana. And also, many people may not know, or they may have heard, that even at the inauguration of Kwame Nkrumah, there were many people who traveled there from the U.S. Martin Luther King Jr. and Coretta Scott King was there, and there were others, and one of the greatest speeches that Dr. King made on his return was the speech. Some places it's entitled "The Birth of a Nation." And it was actually his report that he gave at his church. This was he taught at was it Ebenezer? Ebenezer. Yes. And on his return, and if you read that speech with the image that, or the narrative that we normally are fed about Dr. King, if you read that speech without knowing this was Dr. King, you would think it was some strong Pan-African brother, really giving the picture of an independent, a black independent nation, and his experience of visiting there and the need to really do for self, but in our own nation that we can call our own. But he was talking about Ghana, and so it's a lot. We did our convention there. Y'all remember
1994. Yep.
And up to that point, now we brought something upwards of, I think, if I remember right, the number was
2,000.
2,000. Yeah.
2,000 was the largest contingent of people coming to the continent, coming to Ghana at one time in one delegation. And this was, and most of them was their first time to the continent of Africa, and probably would never have made a trip like that if the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan did not extend that invitation to be there for Savior's Day in Accra, Ghana. And it was a fascinating event. There's a lot that I could say about Ghana, brother. Well, we're
gonna
home.
Well, we gonna have to stop you. You know what? Or maybe, but I'm thinking of putting together a panel of people that can kind of talk about this. So maybe you need to be on that panel. But I wanted to get into, brother. We got about 30 minutes, I guess. So, Brother Brian, let's stay in Africa for a minute, because you did some reporting in the final call this week on political developments and I guess some new leadership in Botswana. So who is he? What's going on? And why do you think we should be paying attention to this development?
Yeah. Well, Botswana had elections, presidential elections on October the 31st, the 30th. And they elected a new president, Duma Boko, who's a 54-year-old brother, Harvard-trained lawyer. He's a human rights lawyer. But the first significance was that the people voted him in against a government whose party ruled Botswana since independence. Botswana became independent in 1966, and so the Botswana Democratic Party was the party that ruled from that time up until last month. And this is now the interesting thing about Botswana is that one, it's a landlocked country that's locked between 5 other countries there in southern Africa. Its main export that a business is the diamond business, and because of that, over the years they were able to really be a strong economy in Africa, so much so that it was called Africa's success story. This small country of Botswana, which only has about 2.4 million people. And so, and the turn of events happened in Botswana because of, in the diamond industry, people who keep up with these mineral resources and these precious stones or whatnot know that the diamond industry took a hit because they had began making these synthetic diamonds, and they, it's mixed feelings and controversy about that, because in one sense it's like, okay, we can make diamonds in a laboratory, and that will curtail the excuse that diamonds, you got what you call dirty diamonds, and you got what you call, because of the harsh conditions that people have workers go in to get the diamonds. You have blood diamonds, that, like when you look at the Congo and different places where there's wars going on, and a lot of it is centered on the illegal extraction of mineral resources like diamonds. So you have those blood diamonds, And so when they were able to make diamonds in a laboratory, then that cut into the natural raw diamonds, which was the business that Botswana was in. And they took a serious hit like other countries that deal in diamonds, but they took it because that was like their main source of income. So it caused the economy to get damaged, high unemployment, especially among young people. So the suffering in Botswana was high in recent times. And so that created the condition for dissatisfaction and the need for a change. So after 58 years in power, the Botswana Democratic Party lost that election. And now we have this new president, Duma Boko, who seems to be very progressive. I mean, he seems to have progressive ideas and moves that he wants to make, not just for Botswana, but that rearrangement of how Africa is dealt with by these other powers that are now scrambling in Africa for their own survival into the 21st century, And so this is where we're at right now. And I look at it like this, that because he's new, he's not new to Botswana politics. He's been, he's been running, I believe, since around 2014. And I think this is his third or fourth attempt, at the presidency. And but this is the time because, again, what Botswana is going through in terms of the turn of events, in terms of their wealth and their whatnot. So
let's talk, Brother Brown, about some of the things about this new leadership that makes him interesting.
Yes. Well, he comes at a time when there's this sweeping change in these new leaders, such as we see in Burkina Faso, in Mali, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, particularly in Niger. These are leaders, although those are military leaders, and this new leader in Botswana obviously came in by elections. But what they all have in common is they are determined not to do business as usual. So there's this anti-imperialist wave going on in Africa right now, particularly along what they call the Sahel region of Africa, which encompasses, it stretches from the east coast of Africa to the west coast of Africa. So a lot of these countries are involved in, looking at this change, and again, having a new and different arrangement with these traditional outside powers, that have been in their countries on one level or another. So you have just this past week, you had the country of Chad. They put out the French military, literally put them out, and because they feel that, they are maturing as a country, and they feel that any military on their soil, it's a contradiction to their own sovereignty. So they feel they're at a point now they want the French out. Senegal of all places, you know, whose leader just came into office in March, and he made a determination and announced that he is also putting the French military out, and he said explicitly that, you know, sovereignty, you know, again, it's a contradiction to our own sovereignty to have a foreign military on our land. You see, so there's this wave that's going on. They've in Niger and in Burkina Faso, they have made moves to wrest control of their resources. You know, and they're making rearrangements. Those companies that is doing business from the outside, you know, it's not going to be this same thing where they can go in, take what they take, extract what they can extract, and the people in those countries have nothing and are suffering.
You know,
So
Brother
these are
Brian,
bold
that brings me to something, because we have Brother Eugene on, and I forget which. I don't know if it was Burkina Faso or Niger or Mali. These are, so we got what, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, right? They've all had quote unquote military coups, is what the West calls them. But what we see, what Brother Eugene was explaining, and many people see them as, is a popular movement,
right,
supporting the military, because in the face of quote unquote democracy, corrupted by the West, the people have suffered and the countries have not gained true sovereignty and independence. So now, instead of just continually hearing politicians say one thing and do nothing, because they're puppets of the West, now they've installed these military governments. So in Niger, they had the drone base that was the U.S., and the U.S. has been kicked out. And I think similar in Burkina Faso. I think that in Burkina Faso, they had these gold concessions or contracts with Western countries, like Canada. And these Canadian companies weren't paying what they were supposed to do. They were just getting away with it. And then the military locked down the Canadian executives from these mining conglomerates and said, you're not going nowhere until you pay us what you owe us. And now that money has been used to help cut the cost. I think Brother Eugene said about 50%. Help cut the cost in public health, like hospitals, public hospitals, by about 50%. So you're talking about this change in leadership and rejection of Western interests. Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali kicking people out, Senegal kicking the French out, Chad now saying the French has to go, and now you got this brother in Botswana who apparently is saying some of the same things. Correct?
He's saying, he's saying that this whole traditional arrangement has to be changed, and and so yes. Now I have not heard. Well, there was reports that he's talking about putting the United States military out of Botswana. Now, because the United States is the primary business, the country that does business with them. They were the number one purchasers of those diamonds, the United States. But now I have to say, I mean, that's why I say, because he's only been in power, since for a little over a month right now. That it's like, okay, he's worth watching. I'll put it that way. because when I went to do the research of the actual, what did he say? You know, as a journalist, you know, Brother Naba'a, this is your lesson to me as a journalist. I'm giving you the credit for always keeping me on point to go after the truth. Don't be taking people's word on face value. So I went to check to see, well, what did he say? And he may have said it, but each source that they cited as being, where they got the information from that he said, ever cited where or when he said it. They didn't have no video. They didn't have no. So it's like, and now he did say some things that it seems to me he is leaning towards a definitely different arrangement in terms of how the U.S. has done business throughout the world. Because he made a statement as much in answering a question about, the upcoming administration here in the United States. And he said when this person was in the last time, he was moving and shuffling U.S. military out of countries, and he saw that as a positive sign, and that he hopes that will happen this go around. So that told me that his sentiment is, he's not keen on the way the U.S. has been this kind of gangster type entity through AFRICOM and its military throughout the world. So that was the only sign that. But to me, again, other things that he said is he's worth. It's leaning for me. It's leaning toward that he definitely wants a new day and looking at a new day in Africa, and he sounds like he's determined to be a part of making that happen.
So we're talking about cutting this relationship where Africa has been exploited and underdeveloped and all of that by the West. I think we got a couple callers. James.
No, go ahead. I want to ask something, but go to the callers first.
Okay, let's get the callers in, brother BJ.
Okay, all right. Thank you for calling in WVON Straight Words tonight. We got Brother Amir. Go ahead and talk to us, brother.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother BJ, Brother James, Brother Naba'a, Brother Brian.
Wa alaikum salam.
This is a very interesting and great show. I don't want to take a lot of your time. But, Brother Brown, I want to ask you a question. Two questions. The first question is, with all with the French being kicked out and different other governments being kicked out of Africa, along with what's going on with South Africa and BRICS, how would what's going on with the rest of the world in regards to the wars and the rumors of wars, how will all that affect Africa as a whole?
Well, it would affect Africa. It depends on how these countries that are making these moves handle themselves. Because if you're being exploited, there's economies such as in Botswana, for example, with if it's true that he wants to kick the U.S. military out. Now, when a military has a presence in your country, there's other things that infuses cash into the economy. There's other things that happens as a result of that presence. So it depends on what they decide to do. And I think that's why they have to wrest control of resources and make new arrangements where their resources are concerned. Because if you're going to kick your enemy out, then you have to be in a place to do for yourself, to handle the shortfall in the economy that may cause. But self-determination is what it is. It's self-determination. Now, how does it affect, in terms of stuff going on around the world? these countries, at least in some of the major, I would say with the major question of Palestine, for example, and what's going on in occupied Palestine, you know, they are on the side, they have been on the side of condemning that. You know, they've been on the side of condemning that. So now what does that mean in these various forums that they share with the rest of the world, whether it's at the UN or other forums that they share with other powers? You know, they got to be strong enough to also put those votes in for whatever the votes are worth at the UN, just as an example, that will, you know, where their principal position is also matched by actions in those forums, again, for whatever those forums are worth.
Yes, sir. And if I may, Brother Naba'a, ask one more question. In regards to your travels with Brother Akbar, Brother Minister Louis Farrakhan, Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, international representative, as he is climbing up in age and probably doing less travel, and, you know, do you see yourself, or do you see yourself training others to pick up the mantle where he left off in regards to building relationships, establishing relationships, and keeping relationships with different diplomats and dignitaries of different countries in Africa?
Well, I mean, that will come, you know, in the Nation of Islam. You know, we have a structure. You know, we have a Shura Executive Council that, you know, that is dealing with the growth and the development of the Nation of Islam under the tutelage of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who you know, and so we have to locate, and I would say this: there are young people in the nation right now who are engaged in the international arena, and you know, and so it's not that we don't have anybody who may be able to handle, you know, the kind of work that Brother Akbar had put in and whatnot. They are, and they exist, and they're very much active in the Nation of Islam. And so, but in terms of the direction and what happens with all of that as we move into the future of things, you know, we have a structure that has been working and is working as we speak, and I'm sure that we will be all right.
Yes, sir. Thank you, brothers, for this call opportunity. Brother Naba'a, I believe a good panel, as you mentioned, you like to have the brothers on the panel. I think that'll be a good, even just, you know, I think that'll be a great idea. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, brother.
Good. We got one more. Mama D. Mama D, you're on Straight Words. Go ahead and talk to us, Mother Mama D.
Assalamu alaikum, brother man.
Alaikum salam.
Can I still talk about Ghana?
Sure.
Okay. October of 2018, I had the pleasure of going to Ghana with WVON host Linnell Harris and his family. And I brought back a 23.5 feet banner, which I call the banner of civilization, because it goes from Kush to the present day. You've got Master Musa, an African king worth $400 billion, Master Farad Muhammad, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, the noble Jew Ali, Fannie Lou Hamer, Dr. King, Prince, Aretha Franklin, Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, you name it. They're on that banner of civilization. I want to have it displayed in City Hall, so I've contacted Mayor Johnson to do that, because December 18th and October 16th are Divinity Days in Chicago since October of 1995. So this year marks the 159th anniversary of the certifying of the 13th Amendment. And October 16th is the 29th anniversary of those 2 days called Divinity Days in Chicago. Now, what is important that we want to do this year, because next year marks the 30th anniversary of the Million Man March. I was out there, spent the night on the grounds in my 9-foot-tall pyramid, and we want to get set for that. So, as you know, with Atonement Day, women were and supporters was asked to remain in their homes, abstaining from work and stuff like that. So the difference between a holy day and a holiday and a divinity day is because divinity days require fasting and praying. So on December 18th, unity begins with you. We are asking people to be still, fast and pray for faith, family, and fight for reparation. And what do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea, Mama D. Just make sure you send us some information so we can look at, maybe we can schedule to come on and have you talk a little bit about that in advance of that event. And you can get us at straightwords.com, or you can text us at 312-480-9775. Just say who you are, and we'll have somebody follow up with you, okay?
You say straightword.com. What was that number again?
312-480-9775.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Hey, Brother James, you wanted to get in, right?
Yes. I wanted to, Brother Brian, if you can comment on, like right now, Biden is over in Africa promoting, I guess, trying to figure out how the States is going to get in on what's going on in Southern Africa. I think he's in Angola, talking about a railway system that's going to run from the ports of Angola up into, I guess, the Democratic Republic of Congo, because they want to get those resources out. Looking at the new need for these electric batteries and all that kind of stuff. So Biden is over there touting how American industry should be able to come in, and of course, if they do, Brother Brian, I don't know how much you looked into this, but they will have to bring in, like, security means, maybe more military, I would imagine, to make sure the whatever the projects are go well. I mean, they may not be on the ground, but they'll definitely be in the area. And so Botswana is right there, and as you talk about young leaders with different ideas and leaders that are not so trustworthy of these Western leadership that has maligned Africa for so long. Just your thoughts on the president's visit, and if America gets some kind of foothold to offset what China has been able to do, U.S. has not been has been known to overthrow governments either covertly or overtly in our African countries. So I just want to see what comments or insight you might have on what's going on down there, particularly in Angola.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that I, and I saw when he has not been to the continent of Africa at all in his 4 years of being in power. He waits weeks before he gets out of power and goes to Angola. And I just read that the message that he gave, the overall message that he gave is America we're all in for Africa.
Yeah.
The outgoing president in just a few weeks is saying we're all in for Africa.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this competition with China, first of all, it's not China that this growing sentiment is looking to kick out. It's France and America primarily that they're looking to kick out. China is part of the BRICS, nations. Angola is in that Southern Africa part of SADC, that grouping of Southern African nations.
Yeah, yeah.
And now you're talking about building a railway from Angola into the Democratic Republic of the Congo. See, there's this new scramble for Africa that's going on, but with that scramble is also the United States is also in a current scramble for its survival in that scramble itself.
Yeah.
So and this is why just AFRICOM some months ago had a conference. I think it was in Mozambique. It was either in Mozambique or in Angola. I believe it may have been in Mozambique. But they had the military heads met with AFRICOM because AFRICOM is now slipping on banana peels. They lost the largest, most expensive drone base when Niger kicked them out. They're losing against the reason why they claim that they have the military all up in there, which is to fight these extremist groups, whom, by the way, it was France, America, and NATO that caused those extremist groups to come out of the hole that they were in when they killed Brother Gaddafi, because Gaddafi had those people contained. See? So all of this domino effect, and now you slipping on banana peels trying to figure out how is America going to remain in Africa in the way that it had remained. But the problem is it's like the emperor with no clothes. Everybody know you naked but you. America's stuff has changed. It's no longer the same. See? So that's what I think. I think that it's he's making arrangements on stuff that he can't execute on really, because there's no telling what the next administration is going to do, who's led by somebody who sees African nations pretty much as whole countries.
Yeah.
And how much attention are they going to give? It remains to be seen. We don't know. So
Brother Brian, I want to thank you for coming on and in particular, responding to my rather last minute information. But you got about a minute, you got about 30 seconds. Tell people how they can follow you, how they can get the work that you do every week.
Yes, sir. Every week you go to the Final Call website, finalcall.com, and my articles are all there. Of course, I'm on X at Global Peaks, and Facebook at brian.e.muhammad, and you can reach me on all those platforms.
All right. Well, thank you, Brother Brian. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to talking to you again in the future. So, assalamu alaikum.
Yes, sir. Wa alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. Well, brothers, we had a wonderful show again tonight, And brothers and sisters, you've been listening to Straight Words on WVON 1690, the Talk of Chicago. And if you want to hear more, if you missed some of that great features that we had tonight, you can go to our website, straightwords.com, and check out the rich interviews and information that we gave out tonight. Brothers and sisters, we love doing this, and we love your support on this Giving Tuesday as we close out. Why don't you go to our website and donate and hit us up on the text line, 312-480-9775. Brother Naba'a going to have that phone in his hand all night, so he don't mind. Keep him up to the wee hours of the morning. 312-480-9775. To our great producer and the WVON studios, the great brother Deontay. Thank you so much, man. We love you, brother. Do a wonderful job for us from the beginning. Our sister Jeanette in Charlotte, our producer who helps us arrange the show. We thank y'all, brothers and sisters. And remember, every black face that you see, I want y'all to remember the words of Jesus tomorrow. It said, love ye one another as I have loved you. And then the greatest of that commandment is love your neighbor as yourself. So show your love tomorrow.
Teach, preacher.
Show your love. Show your love tomorrow, brothers and sisters. And let's fall in love with each other. And let's work on that unity and the family at the same time, just like we talked about earlier in the show. Love y'all, brothers. Brother Naba'a, brother James G. May Allah bless you. May Allah bless Chicago and all over the world as we close out on Straight Words. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.